Thanks so much for joining us here for Denver 7 News at 11. I'm Jason Grenauer. We begin today with that scary scene during Monday Night Football. A Buffalo Bills player collapsing on the field after a hit. The Buffalo Bills confirm overnight Damar Hamlin experienced cardiac arrest on the field during that game in Cincinnati. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta has been following this story live all morning long from Empower Field here in Denver. She's had the latest on his condition and reaction from some of his closest friends. Veronica?
And new this morning, for the very first time, we're hearing from someone who is very close to Damar Hamlin. This is Jordan Rooney that we're talking about this morning. He's a part of Hamlin's marketing team. He's also a close friend of his. And Jason, you mentioned that statement that the Buffalo Bills organization put out via Twitter last night. In that tweet, they were saying and really confirmed to us that Hamlin had cardiac arrest and then his heartbeat was restored when he was on the field. Of course, that was just before he was taken in an ambulance to the hospital where he was sedated. And then, of course, we know he was listed in critical condition as well. And just about an hour or so ago, again, we heard from Rooney, his friend, from Hamlin's friend. Again, this is via Twitter. He actually posted a statement from the Hamlin family. Take a look at that statement. It's a pretty lengthy one. In it, he just kind of thanks, and rather the family kind of thanks, a lot of people, not only the football organizations, the Bengals, their coach. He also thanks some of the fans there as well for all of their support and their prayers. We know that a lot of people were asking for prayers. Of course, that wasn't only via Twitter, but we saw it and heard about it a lot during last night's broadcast, not only from some of those commentators, but also some of the reporters who were there when this all happened. So the family, again, just really thankful for so much of that. Now, earlier this morning, we also heard from Rooney himself, giving us a little bit of positivity about Hamlin's situation. Take a listen.
Be patient right now. I think there's a lot of narratives going around, and a lot of people want certain answers, but this is a human being who has a family, and their well-being, his well-being is what's most important. But I'm excited for him to bounce back from this, because Damar's someone who he will use things like this adversity, and he'll make sure he inspires plenty of other people along the way.
And this is a moment when we realized last night that things were really serious, right? Not only was Hamlin down for much longer than what we're used to if you typically watch football, but when you saw that ambulance kind of back up into that field and take Hamlin to a hospital, of course, those commentators during Monday Night Football also pointing to something else that we want to point out this morning, how quiet fans were, not only when they saw Hamlin go down, but also when all of those other events unfolded. Of course, we have to touch on how players kind of reacted to all of this. They were concerned. Some were crying. Some just completely turned away when Hamlin started getting CPR, as we heard from those commentators as well. They were even praying also. And right now, honestly, we're just waiting to hear and waiting to get another update on how Hamlin is doing this morning. Again, at last check and from last night from the Buffalo Bills organization, they told us he was listed in critical condition. I think, Jason, the one thing that everyone can kind of agree on is the thing that's least important here is the game, the Bills versus the Bengals. Of course, we have no word on when that game will be rescheduled for. We're live in Denver this morning. I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Yeah, absolutely, Veronica. Thank you. And we will bring you any updates to Hamlin's condition as soon as we learn them. Now, the Broncos are showing their support for Hamlin. The team retweeted this photo of Bills players and coaches kneeling there on the field, adding, "All of Broncos country is praying for you." Several other players also posted it on social media last night. Russell Wilson was among them. He wrote, "Wow, I'm praying for you, praying for health and safety." And Chase Edmonds called the collapse the hardest thing I ever had to watch. New today, CU Buffs coach Deion Sanders said he's praying for Hamlin's family, for his teammates, for his friends, for his loved ones, as well as fans. And speaking of fans, this is something now that Bills fans have become known for, giving to charity during tough times. This time around, it's people and fans from throughout the country and the league donating to the toy drive that Damar Hamlin started. Now, that original goal, just a few $1,000s, overnight it's now up to $3 million. Hamlin started the Chasing M's Foundation in late 2020 as his college playing career at Pitt was coming to an end. It's a community toy drive to help children impacted by the pandemic buy toys for the holidays. Hamlin talked about it, as you can see, during an autograph signing just a few weeks ago.
Something I've always been into, just giving back, something I've been doing back at home in Pittsburgh. For 3 years, I've been doing the toy drive, so just being able to extend it to Buffalo now is just something I love doing.
Now Buffalo and fans from throughout really the country and the world extending that love back to him in this fight now. Last month was the 3rd annual fundraiser for that cause. Other news now, the fallout from Southwest Airlines' holiday travel disaster is dragging on for yet another week. Many passengers are still waiting for their bags, and the when or how answers as to when they can get them, it depends on who they ask. Like thousands of passengers across the country, Beth Tupta had to book a last-minute flight on United after Southwest canceled her flight to Milwaukee. She says customer service agents in Milwaukee and over the phone told her she'd be able to pick up her bag at DIA upon her return to Denver.
So then when I checked into customer service at DIA on Saturday, when I had returned back to Denver, they told me it was sitting in the hangar and there was nothing I could do about it.
Instead, she was told her bag would have to fly first to Milwaukee without her before it's shipped back and returned to her. Denver7 asked Southwest whether it plans to reevaluate its policy and why there have been so many mixed messages out there. They sent a statement about working around the clock to reunite customers with their luggage. Now, passengers can submit refund requests for lodging, alternate transportation, and food at this website. That's the one pictured right there on your screen. Southwest tells us it is working to provide refunds as soon as possible. This week's second wave of snow has forced many of us to crank up the heat more than usual this week. And you may have noticed a big jump in your Excel bill. Well, unfortunately, it's not a mistake. November's bill was the first for the company's new rates.
If they need help paying their bill, we can help put them on balanced and levelized payment plans, and we can also direct them to energy assistance programs.
However, those energy assistance programs aren't paid for by the company or by shareholders. You pay for them under the energy assistance charge on your bill. That has also increased this year. We've told you about the thousands of migrants that have arrived here in Denver over the past few weeks. Well, Denver city and county leaders say those numbers are not slowing down. Denver7's Brandon Richard has more on the efforts to handle this growing crisis.
Well, Denver city leaders say they are at their breaking point because of the migrant crisis. They say the crisis has been extremely taxing on city resources. Now, today, the Denver City Council will vote on a grant agreement with the state of Colorado that would provide some money to help, but city leaders say it won't be enough. City leaders say since December the 9th, more than 3,400 migrants have come to the city. That includes 225 who showed up Sunday night. Now, more than 1,000 are staying in city-operated emergency shelters. About 740 are staying in shelters operated by nonprofits and community partners. The city says it's on track to spend $3 million to shelter and care for the migrants over the next few months. Now, as for that grant agreement the council will vote on, it would provide $1.5 million from the state of Colorado to help with the expenses the city is racking up, including staffing. But again, city leaders say more, much more will be needed.
We are at the point where we're not able to sustain much longer, right? We're at our breaking point. And so we really need the federal government and the state of Colorado to step up and provide assistance.
And we know that more help could be coming from the American Rescue Plan. Remember, this is money intended for COVID-19 relief. But even with that, city leaders say it likely won't be enough, especially since they expect more migrants to come to Denver here in the weeks and possibly months ahead. Reporting in Denver, Brandon Richard, Denver7.
All right, Brandon, thank you. To the battle on Capitol Hill now over the next Speaker of the House as the new 118th Congress convenes. Republicans have a majority of members, but GOP leader Kevin McCarthy is struggling to clinch the votes needed to take that gavel. ABC's Faith Abube is in Washington with the latest.
A dramatic showdown in the House of Representatives as voting to decide who will wield the Speaker's gavel gets underway. With Republicans now in control of the chamber, GOP leader Kevin McCarthy has already moved into the Speaker's office, but uncertainty is looming over whether he'll become second in line to the presidency, as more than a dozen conservative members are poised to oppose his election.
We may have a battle on the floor, but the battle is for the conference and the country, and that's fine with me.
Florida Representative Matt Gaetz is among 5 far-right members vowing to vote against him, despite McCarthy making major concessions, including a promise to make it easier for members to oust him as Speaker.
If you want to drain the swamp, you cannot put the biggest alligator in charge of the exercise. And it is true that we struggle with trust with Mr. McCarthy.
Representative Bob Good on Fox News.
I suspect 10 to 15 members will vote against him.
McCarthy needs 218 votes. Republicans have a razor-thin majority of 222, so he can only afford to lose 4 GOP members. He's counting on every vote, including that of controversial New York Congressman-elect George Santos. Santos has admitted to making several false statements about his personal and professional background. His legal troubles mounting as prosecutors in Brazil plan to reopen a 2008 fraud case against him for allegedly stealing a check. McCarthy silent about calls for Santos to step down. And all House business, including the swearing in of lawmakers, is frozen until a new speaker is elected. And if McCarthy fails to get enough support on the first ballot, it would be the first time in 100 years the House would need multiple votes to elect a speaker. In Washington, Faith Abube, ABC News.
Now, as the new Congress takes over in Washington, D.C. today, for the first time, Colorado will have 8 representatives. That's thanks to our population growth. We have an extra seat now in the House. The new district, District 8, will be represented by former state representative Dr. Yadira Caraveo. We also have one change in the Colorado delegation. District 7 Congressman Ed Perlmutter has retired. The new representative for District 7 is former state Senator Brittany Pedersen.